Child Entertaining, and in this video I want to show you some of my favorite ways to take the humble deviled egg and make it into a more adult version. My husband's in sales, and oftentimes I'm called upon to host various clients and workmates and whatnot, which is great because I love hostessing. I love having parties, and any excuse to do that I'm all for. However, I also have a 10-month-old crawling around. So he kind of takes up a lot of my time, so I don't get to devote as much as I would like to my appetizers. So I need things that are tasty, that look good, and that I can make fairly quickly. So that's why I like the deviled egg, because if you'll look at it as a blank canvas, your imagination is your only limitation, because you can literally put just about anything in one and play with the flavors a little bit, and you're gonna get something that somebody likes. So what I've laid out here are some of my favorite ways to just add a couple extra ingredients to your mix to give it a more grown-up and elevated flavor. I guarantee you at your next party, tailgate, potluck, people are gonna be begging for your recipes. So let's start down here with our most simple one. Now, to start out with, I know every family has their own way to make the perfect deviled egg. Go on ahead and do that. Go on ahead, boil your egg, however you like to do, because you know what works for you and you know what you need to do to get that perfect egg. Go on ahead, boil it, peel it, slice it, separate your yolks and your whites. Set your whites up on your platter that you're going to want to serve off of, and bring your yolks over and start making your mix. Most everybody has a classic one that they like to use: mayonnaise, mustard, salt, pepper, little paprika on top, some relish if you like. For the most part, you're going to use that base, and we're just going to be adding to it. So whatever you like to do here, go on ahead and do that. Now, for a most simple one down here, I've left the base exactly the same as I normally would. And all I've done to it is I've taken some sriracha and I've drizzled it right over the top. And you'll notice on the plate, I wasn't real careful about how I went about it, because I wanted that extra color on the plate. Because like everybody says, you eat with your eyes first. So I want my plates to look inviting. I want them to look fun. So I just took that sriracha, drizzled over the top, and I added a little bit of basil, because for one thing, I like the way it looks on there, that extra pop of green color, and I also like the flavor that it brings to this particular dish. So with this one, you're going to need to know your crowd a little bit. Not everyone likes the spicier dishes, but those that love it will be sopping up all of that extra sriracha on the plate. They can't get enough of it. So, if you know you've got some guests coming that like that extra heat, make some of these. Super easy. You're making all this anyways. Might as well just add a little bit of sriracha to the top. Great way to add some extra flavor and color to the plate. My next one right here is one of my all-time favorites. I'm a Florida girl, born and raised, and I love seafood, and crab is one of my favorites. So what I've done here is I've added some jumbo lump crab meat to my base and mixed it up really good. Now, you'll notice these eggs are a little bit overstuffed. That is because in my findings with all the parties that I've hosted and events and whatnot, people that like seafood like it in large quantities. Give it to them. Overstuff your eggs. Really fill it up and say, you know what, here, I know you want to eat this seafood. Have at it. They're going to appreciate it. Now, I've topped these with one of my favorite seasonings for seafood, Old Bay. Doesn't get any better than this when it comes to seafood. Now, I've liberally shaked it on there. And again, it just adds some extra color to my presentation as well. One of my all-time favorites. Now, here again is another one you're going to need to know your crowd for a little bit. This one's horseradish. I've taken about 4 tablespoons of horseradish and added to my mix. That did about 8 eggs, so 16 halves in total. And then I have garnished this one with some chopped olives and pickled garlic. My mom was here last week, and she really likes those particular items, so I always keep them in the house when she's here. Well, she went home and she didn't finish them. So rather than just throw them away, because I'm not a particular fan of them, I have chopped them up and added them as a garnish to this egg. Don't be afraid to do that. If you've got some stuff in your fridge and you want to say, hey, let me see what I can do with this, add it to as a garnish to something. You know, you'll have fun with it, and it's pretty. It all tastes good. I've also put some smoked paprika on the top of these as well, because I like that smoky flavor with the horseradish. Now right here is one of my husband's favorites, and I make these every Christmas for him. This is smoked salmon. Now with all of these other ones, there's no extra equipment required. You can mix up your mix however you normally do, you know, mash it with a fork to get a fairly creamy consistency. It won't be as creamy as a food processor, but it works. Well, here you kind of need a food processor because you're going to take a packet of smoked salmon from the seafood department, and you're going to need a creamy pate to be able to put it into your egg vessel. So I suggest running it through a blender or a food processor and then adding it to your eggs. I've garnished this with some caper berries, and this one I have done a smoked pickled okra. Mostly because, again, you eat with your eyes first, and this just looks fun. And the pickled flavors with the salmon, it's almost like having a salmon tray set out without having each separate accompaniment. So it's a nice, fun way to get all those flavors that people love and crave without having to set out a whole big tray. All right, this one right here, I do for just about every gathering I go to because people, for whatever reason, cannot get enough bacon. I personally am not a fan of bacon. I don't see the appeal. I know that puts me in the minority of the world, but for the most part, everyone else loves it. So I've taken my base, made it like I normally would, and crumbled up some crispy bacon into it. I've left a couple of these empty so that I can show you a fun way to fill these up. They make a nice presentation in the end. Again, if you've watched my previous video where I colored the deviled eggs, I go into great detail on how to do this. If not, you need, as soon as you're done with this video, you need to go watch that one. I promise it's worth it. But basically what I've done is I've taken a sandwich bag and I've filled it up with my mix with the bacon added to it, and I've cut off a little piece on the bottom here. Just, you know, a little bit. You're going to want to cut off a little bit more than you normally think you would have to because, you know, if your bacon's a little bit chunkier, it needs to fit through the hole. And then you just hold it like a normal pastry bag, and you go right on ahead and fill up your eggs, and you get those nice little tops that everyone likes to see on their deviled egg. I personally normally do this with a pastry bag because I'm a little bit OCD as to how my eggs look, and I like everything to look uniform, and you know, I'm really all about presentation when it comes to a lot of things. Taste and presentation are two of the most important things to me. But it's an easy way to do it without having to go to all the trouble of having all the extra equipment. You know, if you're not into that and you just want to fill them up using a spoon, there's nothing wrong with that either. They're still going to taste exactly the same. These particular ones I have garnished with pork rinds because, again, you never can have too much pork apparently. And the crunch adds a nice texture to the dish. And it's fun. And like you see here, I've kind of used an oversized one right here on this particular egg. It's just fun, whimsical, you know, mix it up a little bit. Have some fun with what you're doing. I've taken a little bit of paprika and again sprinkled over the top. Made a little bit of a mess with it on my plate because, you know, not everything needs to be clean and tidy and perfect looking. You know, have some fun with all of this. You can even set out a little bar like I've done right here. Have a couple plain eggs sitting around and just have some various toppings over here for your guests to play with. You know, have some little tongs sitting out and everybody can just kind of, you know, grab what they want and put on top, and it's fun and interactive. It leaves less work for you to do and lets your guests feel like you've really paid attention to a lot of details and, you know, you're really interested in what makes them happy as a guest. So again, this is what I like to do here with my deviled eggs, and I hope you've enjoyed, and please check back later for our next video. Thanks for watching.